Which starts at 3:15. That's Summit TV, your essential business channel.
Business IQ is proudly brought to you by Credit Guarantee.
As the world becomes a global village, there's an increase of companies going international in search for growth. One of the most significant concerns for companies is whether to employ local staff or import skills in order to best drive the business. Shohana Mohan, an associate at BDO SA, is here to unpack how businesses are getting around that. Hi, welcome, and thanks for coming in.
Good morning, thank you.
So, what exactly is localization?
Typically where an employee is placed on local terms and conditions in the host location. So what that typically would involve is an individual going from a home country contract directly into a host location in terms of being remunerated in terms of their remuneration models and practices.
All right. And why are companies eager to adopt it? Are they eager to adopt it?
Well, recently, of late, almost 50% of African companies adopt localization.
All right.
And the reason for that is most commonly found in the fact that expatriate assignment costs can sometimes typically be up to almost about 3 times more the cost of a normal salary package. So localizing will obviously cap those additional costs
and keep the costs relatively down. So it would be quite beneficial, of course, for them to go with that.
Most definitely, and also for project costing purposes, it almost creates certainty in that respect.
So that employ people from the surrounding areas instead of using expats or keep around. What does that do for the company that's actually a different, from a different country?
Well, if you're looking at a South African company going into, for example, Africa,
yes,
you would find sometimes they would most definitely want to employ locals, but then for skills transfer, you would find that for almost about 3 or 4 years, they would want to take a South African national and place them in local terms and conditions in the host location.
And obviously share the skills and actually develop them according to how the company functions.
That's correct.
Great. And what can companies do to effectively implement localization? Because it must be quite a challenge.
Certainly, and it all starts off with the policy.
Right.
There must be a specific expatriate model framework around localization, and more we see that localization policies and the framework is becoming a lot more complex, because you find in each region there's different minimum wage criteria, minimum salary requirements. So starting off is actually getting it right by developing and parameters around that policy are sort of sound and efficient.
And everybody's kind of kept happy.
Correct.
And I suppose that would obviously benefit a company going into a new country and operating there and gaining some kind of popularity, if you like, with the locals.
Yes, and also and definitely, minimizing the reputational risk of getting things wrong.
And do a lot of companies, are they succeeding in this, or does it take a time to get to it, where they're actually, carrying it out quite well? Or?
I think, as I say, if the initial legwork is done, and you set down the parameters and you put down, you bed down the policies that you're willing to extend and apply to your expatriate population, it makes it quite easy once you do, as I say, the initial legwork.
Okay, so there's the cost saving factor, which we've discussed already. What other benefits are there for localization?
Definitely, cost is one of the first things, and you actually can maximize your return on investment.
Yes.
You can almost see that you're employing a particular category of staff, and you're also creating mobility amongst your employees. You find in the early career progression stages, individuals are quite afraid to actually accepting these types of localization contracts, because money is not the only driver in that respect.
What about the disadvantages or the challenges?
The disadvantages is obviously saying to an employee, you're going to be localized in, some particular country where there's no affinity in terms of socioeconomic conditions, housing norms, schooling, So you'd have to consider the specifics around the employee target market that you're looking at before you can say, well, I'm looking at localizing you.
What about tax?
Tax, I would recommend that if you're localizing an individual, make sure that you give them some sort of comfort when it comes to tax.
Yes.
In terms of saying to them, you would almost for the first 2 to 3 years of the assignment, make sure that they that country, so that they become more familiar with the tax laws and the taxation regime in that country.
In the country.
Yeah.
But I suppose that would obviously be, as you say, you'd have to honor the tax laws in that country and work within those parameters.
Correct.
And if you've got locals working for your company, then it's a lot easier because they should be okay with that.
Yes, the locals will, that would be the normal,
Yes.
Taxation regime that would apply. But looking at a South African going into a particular jurisdiction,
It certainly is challenging. Thanks very much. A very interesting topic there. Shohana Mohan from BDO SA chatting with us this morning.
Business IQ was proudly brought to you by Credit Guarantee.
Are you tired of broken windows, cracked tiles and unfinished DIY jobs? Is that leaking tap driving you insane? Do you need inspiration to turn your home into your castle? Strap on your tool belt, grab your overalls and take back the remote with shows for the real man of the house.
Feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Avoid the perils and pitfalls of hiring dodgy contractors with Cowboy Trap.
It's time to stop your cowboy builder ways.
Climb to the top of the property game with Property Ladder.
You can make money and make a living out of it, providing you keep control.
Home improvement is tough work. But that's where my team and I come in.
Turn disastrous rooms into masterpieces with Carter Can.
This job's